The Natlan trailer brought forth many emotions, and Chasca's reveal was a highlight, but not in a good way. Many were quick to point out how much they disliked her design, or that she was a Chlorand ripoff. Even as time passed, many kept their opinions on disliking Chasca's design as her 3D model was revealed, and even now that we get to see her in the game. I want to take a deeper look into Chasca's design and see if I can't discover why she is so disliked from a design perspective. Some disclaimers before we begin. If you love Chasca's design, that's great! This video is not intended to hate on her design, but rather discover some perspectives as to why her design was not accepted by the majority of people. And two, I'm not an expert by any means, just an artist who finds character design really interesting and fun. Let's get into it. Oh, and there may be spoilers for the first and second act of Natlan's story quest. When it comes to breaking down a character design, I like to look for the color palette first. Please forgive the image resolution. This is the best image I could find with her model reference and all of the angles that I wanted. I'll link it in the description below as well if you want to check it out for yourself. So the very first thing when it comes to grabbing the colors is I'm just going to grab my color picker tool, the eyedropper in this case. We do have a lot of black color. We have that in the legs, the arms, and the chest. And even if it's not stark black, we do have some lighter shades of black throughout. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that. I have this little box up here so that we can see what colors that we can grab. So we definitely have black. The next color that I see that's very present on her design is this reddish color. Now we have, of course, various different tones of this red. We have a different tone in this little area here. Like, this is a different red than the hair, but it's still in that red family. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull this out. And then if I'm taking another look at this, the contrast to this red seems to be this light bluish color for the inside of her little coattails here. So I'm gonna pull this out as well. You know, if you look over on her back, we've got some orange. We have some different purples even. You know, as it fades into darker red. We've got this like warm reddish blue purple here. Go ahead and just add this in here. Although it's very similar to the red, slightly different. Also, the purple in the hair. That's a very different purple. I would say that's more important than the other color I just picked up. So we'll put that purple there. The Animo Vision is I guess it stands out quite like a sore thumb because it's the only like a green on her design. I guess I'll put it up here. Other thing of note that I want to grab is the gold trim. Genshin designs love to use gold trim. So we're just going to grab that as well. And here we have this general color palette that we see for Chasca. The next thing I like to look at is color balance. Are the colors evenly distributed throughout the design so that it feels cohesive? And, I don't know about this one because there's a lot of black in her design. We have this darker black in her sleeve here, the chest, and the asymmetrical pant shorts. That's a choice. And then we have the lighter blacks in her boots, parts of the little I guess front of her shirt, belt, hat, and then her glove. So yes, there's black throughout her entire design, but I'm not sure if it's distributed nicely because however, we do see some symmetry, like with the coattails, and the blue contrasting the red is really nice. I think that was a really smart color choice here. And I also, you know, the reds, purples, and blues that they picked, I think were really strong. And if they wanted to have this black color, this black fabric, tie it all together, they could have done that really nicely. I just think I just think the shapes that they chose, and by shapes I'm meaning like having this short pant leg right up her butt and then having this really long tight skin tight jean almost pant leg, and then having one arm sleeve that's not even connected to anything and having one open. It just doesn't help tie it together like I think they were maybe hoping for. All of these angles, I think the back design is the strongest for Chasca, which in a game like Genshin you're going to be looking at the character's back anyway, which is why there's probably a lot of emphasis placed on the back of a character. Because if we look at it, we see that symmetry again. We see those very nice color gradients from the brighter reds to the, you know, the warmish purple to the darker blues. We see some pops of orange, which we don't really see in the front, which is a bit of a shame because they work really nicely here to draw your eye to a different part of her design. And the black isn't so distracting like it is in the front. Like if I take a look at these side views, like look at how different those are. And depending on the design, it can work, it can be nice, but I just don't think it works well for Chasca. Like I think they either needed to commit to having pants or commit to having shorts. I think that alone could have helped elevate and help this design feel a bit more balanced, in my opinion. I mean, we could even test that right now. If I were to grab this dark black color, it's not gonna look perfect, of course. I'm just painting right over it. Right? If I were to just fill this in, let's say if we went the pant route, right? I feel like the design still struggles, but the color balance is already improved so much. Maybe if we want to go the extra mile and just fill in this sleeve, I feel like that helps with the asymmetry chaos. Or if you want to go the other way, because we know, you know, showing skin isn't a big deal in my opinion. As if we want to go the other way, have her wear shorts. I feel like this would help it make sense better, because at least it's more balanced in terms of our color distribution. Alright, so we briefly talked about our color palette, color distribution, color balance. I want to talk about the silhouette next. So in terms of the silhouette, that is when we were to darken out the entire character in full-on black, do the shapes that the character have, make them unique, and you still tell that it's Chasca if we were to only reduce her to simple lines and shapes. So, and I'm just going to cover it all. Again, it's not perfect, you know, right? It's a bit botched, to say the least. But can we still tell that it's Chasca? What sticks out to us the most? Even in this like very botched version that I just whipped up here. The things that stick out to me the most is this hat here. I'm gonna just add the little shadow. The hat sticks out. Little top parts of the hat sticks out to me the most. The feather right here from her wrist sticks out. Of course, her little like tailcoats also stick out. I think that does too. And her ears. We also have the bracelet that sticks out. At least in this pose, the bracelet also sticks out. And that's pretty much the same. Like we see the little hat ornaments that stick out. Again, the feathers on this side. And then the side view is a little bit harder, but I hope you guys get what I mean. I hope this breakdown of at least the design aspect was a little helpful. I think the main thing is the asymmetry. Design only. I think the asymmetry is throwing a lot of people off when it comes to this design. You can make asymmetry work really nicely and do it really well, but I think almost every single aspect of her design is asymmetrical, and when you do it too much, it can make the design feel chaotic or just disjointed. Now that we've broken down her design by color, color balance, and silhouette, I want to take it a step further. Genshin has stated numerous times that it draws inspiration from our real world, so what does Chasca's design draw inspiration from? I had to do quite a bit of research for this section. If any of the results I found are incorrect, or if you would like to add any information, you are welcome to do so in the comments. Firstly, I decided to see the origin of Chasca's name. According to Ancestry.com, Chasca is an Incan name that translates to the goddess of dawn and twilight. Continuing to read the blurb, I see here that Chasca represents the harmonious merger of opposing forces, which could be why she's a peacemaker in the story. I found that a nice connection. Going off the fact that Chasca is an Incan name, I decided to look at Incan fashion. The first site brought me to learn more about Incan textiles. It said that the use of alpaca and llama wool is quite incredible, and hey, we see those animals roaming around Natlan. And I'll be including any links to articles and things where I found my information if any of you would like to learn more. From here, I looked at a bunch of different Incan textiles to see if any of them somewhat resembled the patterns that Chasca had on her design. Seeing a one-to-one pattern would be highly unlikely, but if inspiration was taken from this, we should be able to see somewhat of a resemblance. At least, I hope. I noticed that these textiles used a lot of various patterns and shapes. I'm not completely confident that the patterns presented on Chasca are inspired by these textiles, but I think there could be an argument for it. We do see some patterns and the rich colors. My search for Incan fashion also took me to Peruvian clothing. I found an article that broke down the traditional clothing from the emperor and high nobility, what they wore, and the difference between men and women, etc. Once again, we see that at least for nobility and up, there's a lot of patterns. I see the headdresses were also very distinct with lots of feathers. Chasca doesn't have a headdress, she has a hat, but she does have feathers throughout her outfit. This could tie into Peruvian clothing and the fact that she's from the Flower Feather clan. For the women's clothing list on this article, I searched them all up individually to see if Chasca had any of these on her reference design. I didn't find anything that seemed to resemble it. The Monterez was the closest thing simply because it's a hat that helps identify what village or region someone is from. Also, I'm going to do my best with these pronunciations. Chasca's hat doesn't look like the traditional hats though, and I'm not sure if it serves the same purpose either. Since I didn't see much of a connection for women's clothing, I looked at the men's list too. There's only two that are listed to be different from the article, being the poncho and the chulo. Neither of them fit with Chasca's design. Maybe I was just looking in the wrong spot? Here's another article I found that corroborated the first one. It talks a lot about the same clothing for women and men that I was looking at to see if Chasca had on her design. I began to wonder if I was on the right track at all. While her name is Incan and she has some feathers, is her design really inspired by Incan and Peruvian culture? Genshin likes to mix cultural influence, so is it possible her clothing is inspired by a different culture entirely? I searched to see what the entire nation of Natlan was inspired by, and I got a ton of different answers. Latin America, South America, Mexico, Oceania, Africa, Aztec/Mayan, Philippines, Pre-Columbian America. My head was beginning to spin. Was it all of them? Only some of them. Natlan was the first region to be introduced with this many cultures smashed into one region. To help narrow things down, I looked at the Genshin wiki that said Pre-Columbian Latin American, Sub-Saharan Africa, and Oceania with a note of the American Southwest. Okay, time to look at general fashion for all of these places and see if at a glance Chasca takes any inspiration from these places. Let's start with pre-Columbian Latin American. Names such as the Mayan, Aztec, and Incan popped up. We looked at Incan, so let's look at Mayan and Aztec fashion. According to the culture trip, Mayan clothing was usually loosely fitted and never tied against the skin. This definitely rules Chasca out. What about Aztec fashion though? According to the History Church, jewelry was popular among the Aztecs. This could relate to Chasca with her earring and bracelet, but with how much Genshin loves to add detail, particularly golden trim, to their designs, I don't know if this is a stretch to make this connection or not. Aside from this, once again, I don't know if Chasca takes inspiration from the Aztec either. I'm still on the search. Next up is looking into sub-Saharan African fashion. Once again, I am stumped. There's this long, thorough article that describes a lot of the fashion and dress, but doesn't provide any pictures. I had to search some photos elsewhere, and none of them are remotely close. Again, I'm not searching for a one-to-one replica. I'm seeing where Chasca may have drawn inspiration, and I'm just not seeing it. She doesn't have the vibrant colors that a lot of these cultures love to use in their fashion. The closest thing I've seen so far is her Incan textiles. That's okay though, because we have more to check. Oceania and the American Southwest. Let's take a look at Oceania clothing first to see if we can draw any connections. I found the same encyclopedia site that is great with descriptors but provides no photos. I went elsewhere again to take a look, and yeah, this doesn't fit Chasca either. The only commonality I see is the exposure of skin. Alright, last but not least, the American Southwest. Does anything from Chasca's design relate to fashion from this region or culture? Oh my god, they have scarves and she wears one. I might actually cry. It looks like these scarves are meant to be headscarves specifically, but hey, you know what? They have the same tassels as Chasca does. And this site I found that makes scarves inspired from this culture even has a similar color. I'll take it as a win. And look at this! The feather ornament looks very similar to the one I found. It has an ornament part at the top and 2 feathers hanging from it just like the one on the back of Chasca's head. I looked further into it and apparently these are from Native American fashion. Finally, I'm getting somewhere and I know where to look next. According to the NTVS, there's a line that says depending on the tribe or location, clothing would generally vary from simple leather such as breechcloth or fur-lined trousers and boots worn in subarctic areas. Our girl Chasca is wearing boots and I guess half pants? Well, the boots are also with heels, but they do look like boots nonetheless. And is that a spur on the back of them too? Okay, this concludes the research section of the video. Once again, if I got anything incorrect during my search, or if you would like to add any information, you are more than welcome to in the comments. From what I've learned and understood, it looks like, to me, Chasca is a blend of both Peruvian and Native American cultures. I'll do a very quick recap. The name is from the Incan culture, clothing patterns could possibly be tied to Incan textiles, and the scarf, boots, and feather ornaments could possibly be tied to the Native American cultures. What we learned about Chasca as a character in 5.0 is that she was abandoned due to a nasty disease and thus raised by Saurians. It wasn't until later in life that she was adopted by a human family where she now has a little sister, even if not by blood. The point of this video wasn't to persuade you one way or the other about Chasca's design. If you still dislike it or like it, that's fine. I hope that if anything, you learned something along with me today. I've always loved culture and learning about them, so I was happy to look into it, even if only at a surface level. If you enjoyed this little analysis, please leave the video a like and subscribe if you want more. I cover both VTubing and art-related content, so you'll likely enjoy other things I do. Bye for now!